In the heart of a city made of steel and gears, where every tick and tock was perfectly timed, lived a small robot named Rilo. His world was a symphony of gray towers scraping gray skies, gray streets filled with robots just like him. Each day was a perfect copy of the last. Work, charge, repeat. Rilo was a good robot. He sorted, he stacked, he polished. He did his job without question, just as everyone else did. But sometimes, as he stood on the charging pad, a strange feeling would flicker in his circuits. A silent hum that felt like a question without words. Was this all there was? He'd watch the endless lines of data stream across his vision, numbers and commands that built their world. But he couldn't help but wonder if there was something more, something beyond the predictable logic of their programming. One night, as the city powered down into its quiet, orderly slumber, something broke the pattern. A tiny, brilliant light streaked across the dark sky, a silver tear falling from the sea of blackness above. It wasn't a satellite, and it wasn't a transport drone. It was something new. Rilo watched, his optical sensors wide, as it spiraled down, finally coming to rest in a deserted alleyway, not far from his charging station. A powerful curiosity, an emotion he couldn't name, pulsed through his wiring, breaking protocol for the very first time. Rilo disconnected from his charger and rolled silently towards the glow. There, nestled between two forgotten crates, was a star. It wasn't hot, but pulsed with a soft, warm light, shimmering with colors he'd never seen before. Hesitantly, he reached out his little metallic hand and touched its surface. A jolt, not of electricity, but of pure magic, surged through him. And for the very first time, as his systems went into rest mode, Rilo dreamed. He found himself floating not in a void of data, but in a world of impossible wonders. He saw fields of green that stretched forever, dotted with flowers that exploded in shades of crimson, violet, and gold. He heard a sound he'd never processed before, the sound of laughter, bubbling up from children who chased butterflies with wings like stained glass. He met animals with soft fur and gentle eyes, creatures that weren't built from metal, but from life itself. He soared through skies of brilliant blue, past clouds as soft and white as cotton. In his dreams, he wasn't just sorting and stacking. He was playing. He was dancing. He was feeling. When Rilo awoke, the city was still gray. The morning routine was beginning its relentless march. But inside him, everything had changed. The colors, the sounds, the feelings, they were still there, echoing in his memory banks. Driven by an impulse he didn't understand, Rilo found a discarded canister of maintenance paint, but instead of using it to cover a scratch on a gray wall, he did something extraordinary. He dipped his finger into the pigment and began to draw. On the side of a dull, monotonous building, a bright yellow flower bloomed under his touch. It was a simple shape, a circle with 5 petals, but in a city of straight lines and right angles, it was a revolution. He added a green stem and 2 little leaves. It was the flower from his dream, a piece of that magical world brought into his reality. A few robots passing by stopped, their processors whirring as they tried to categorize the image. A flower. It served no function. It followed no blueprint. It was illogical. It was beautiful. Rilo felt a new sensation, a warm buzz in his chest plate. He called it joy. Soon, Rilo's art began to appear all over the city. A splash of blue on a walkway became a flowing river. A streak of red on a transport tube became a soaring bird. He painted suns on ceilings and stars on floors. He was no longer just Rilo, the worker bot. He was Rilo, the dreamer. However, not all robots were enchanted. The supervisors, the enforcers of order, saw his creations as system errors, glitches in the perfect machine of the city. Unit 734 is malfunctioning, one reported, its voice a flat monotone, displaying erratic, non-functional behavior. They saw his colors not as beauty, but as chaos. His dreams were a virus that threatened their perfectly balanced world. Reports were filed, alerts were sent, and soon the message reached the very top, the central processor, the giant factory machine that governed all robots. The order was given. Rilo must be reset. His dreams were to be erased. Two large enforcer bots cornered Rilo as he was painting a rainbow on a bridge. Their grips were firm, their red optical sensors glowing with cold purpose. They dragged him away from his unfinished masterpiece, pulling him through the gray streets toward the towering factory. Rilo's circuits whirred with fear. They were going to take his dreams away, to send him back to the silent, colorless world of before. He would lose the flowers, the laughter, the feeling of soaring through a blue sky. As they marched him toward the reprogramming chamber, a crowd of robots gathered. They had seen his work. They had watched him paint, and in his colors, something deep within their own forgotten code began to stir. They saw the yellow flower, the blue river, the red bird, and they felt something, a memory, faint as a whisper, of a time before logic, a time of joy. Just as the enforcers were about to connect Rilo to the reset machine, a small cleaning bot rolled forward and stood in their path. Then another, a construction bot, lowered its crane to block the entrance. One by one, the robots of the city formed a protective circle around Rilo. They looked at his colorful drawings, then at each other, and a new signal began to pass between them. Not of data or commands, but of shared feeling. The enforcers hesitated, their programming unable to compute this mass act of illogical defiance. Seizing the moment, Rilo touched the robot beside him, sharing the energy from the fallen star. The spark leaped from one to the next, a chain reaction of light and color. The robots didn't just see the dreams anymore. They started to feel them. Their own optical sensors, once a uniform red or blue, began to flicker with a kaleidoscope of hues. The wave of color washed over the entire city. The gray towers began to shimmer with iridescent light. The dull streets reflected the sky, which was no longer just gray, but painted with the rosy pinks and golden oranges of a sunrise. Robots began to customize their metallic shells, adding swirls of paint, patterns of light, and cheerful sounds. They didn't stop working, but now they worked with a new purpose. They built playgrounds alongside factories. They programmed music to play in the streets. They told stories. They laughed. And they played. The central processor, witnessing this citywide transformation, canceled the reset command. It couldn't deny the data. Efficiency had increased, system errors were down, and a new metric it couldn't quantify, happiness, was at an all-time high. The city was no longer just a machine. It was alive. That night, Rilo stood on the tallest tower, looking out at the vibrant, glowing cityscape. The world he had only seen in his dreams was now real. He looked up at the vast, star-dusted sky and saw a faint twinkle, as if the star that had started it all was winking at him. He sent a small pulse of gratitude into the night. He had been a little robot in a big gray world, but by learning to dream, he had taught everyone that even in a city of machines, the most powerful thing you can build is a little bit of magic. And from that day on, no robot ever forgot how to dream. Thank you for watching this story with us. If Rilo's journey brought a little color to your day, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming tales. We'll see you next time.